Yeah, I knew he was dealing with an injury, and I thought that he played through it last week, but I guess he took himself out of the game at some point in that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. So there's definitely something not right, and it's a high ankle sprain, and he's saying he's going to play through it. So, like, the trainers are probably injecting him with whatever, some sort of steroid, whatever it is that they inject these guys with to numb the pain. And if Justin Herbert is going to try to play through that, I think I actually like the Chargers less than if he just doesn't play. And I'd rather have Easton Stick in there actually and get more points with the Chargers. Like, if Easton Stick is going to play, you might see that line get up even higher than 7. So I'd prefer to take the Chargers plus the points if Easton Stick is actually starting there. But Justin Herbert may be playing through it. There's still no way I would lay the points with the Chiefs in that one. And then I guess I talked about Monday night with the Miami Dolphins, and I guess there is some question as to who their quarterback is. I thought they announced definitively that it was going to be Tyler Huntley, even though he hasn't been with the team for very long at all. But I'm hearing that it might not be him or Skylar Thompson, because Skylar Thompson, I guess, actually has an injury. I mean, his injury is that he sucks, basically. So I think that's just an excuse to not play him. But they also have Tim Boyle, I think is his name, which we remember him from the New York Jets, I think last year when the Jets were without Aaron Rodgers, of course, and they couldn't figure out who they wanted to play at quarterback because every one of their quarterbacks was terrible. Tim Boyle was one of those quarterbacks that they used to really not much of an effect at all other than the effect of losing games. So to me, it seems like Miami is going to play Huntley. I mean, that would be the smarter way to go. He's the guy that has more experience and has shown that he can actually win some games, at least at the NFL level. But I don't know. If it's Boyle, I would be surprised, and I wouldn't like the Miami side as much. Of course, I'm not betting on either of these games. These games are just a total cluster, dude. I don't like the NFL slate, and that's a good segue because I also don't like the baseball slate today, although I guess maybe I should look at the NFL slate one more time just to see what's going on with the market here, because I haven't really been eyeing the market as much this morning, because I thought there might be a chance that you'd get the Bears at a better price. They're still at 3 consensus, so maybe not. Probably just still have to lay the 3 on the Chicago Bears. Arizona Cardinals a little bit later. It looks like it's still just 3.5 consensus, and it looks like the betting market is actually moving completely against the Cardinals, so I don't like to see that because I'm going to be playing the Cardinals, so that's going to suck if that one winds up going against a market read in that one. I hope that is not the case there. Oh, God. I will also say, in addition, I actually lean to the Indianapolis Colts. I'll throw out an additional game I didn't talk about yesterday. I think the Steelers, I mean, they're a little bit of a misleading 3-0, I would say, even though their defense has been quite good. Steelers, I mean, I don't know that they're going to continue this with this offense. They really can't do that much. Pittsburgh Steelers, I think maybe last week's win was a little bit misleading because of the Justin Herbert factor that I just talked about, where he was out of the game, although I liked the Steelers actually to win that game. But now they have to go out on the road to the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts finally won a game last week. Colts have been competitive in all 3 of their games. So I think that the Colts may be the right side in that one, even though the Steelers have flipped from a 1-point dog to a 2.5-point favorite. They're, of course, a public road favorite here. It's a price that's still basically just pick the winner. The public is not going to come in on a 1-2 Colts team against a 3-0 Steelers team, even though the public, they usually like the best offense, but I think in this case, the best offense is still not the Colts because Anthony Richardson has looked so bad so far. And that's in the public's eye, though. The Colts don't have the better offense. I think in reality, if Richardson stops turning it over, I actually think the Colts may have the better offense. Their problem has been they've been turning it over too much. If they were able to limit that, I think the Colts actually probably have the better offense. They have the better running back. They actually probably have the better wide receivers, and debatably, they actually have the better quarterback, too. So I kind of lean to the Colts in that one. I actually don't know that the Colts' defense is necessarily horrible either. I don't think it's good, but I don't think it's as bad as people might perceive it to be. 63% of the tickets on the Steelers, 62% of the cash. So my lean in that would be to take the points at home with the Colts. I think you're getting a decent price for the Colts. I mean, I think the Steelers, the market is kind of at its peak on the Steelers as they're sitting 3-0. I don't think they're as good as a 3-0 team should be. So that's the way that I look at that. And the Colts probably not as bad as their record would indicate either. Oh, what else will I talk about? And I mentioned the Jets briefly, just an added bonus maybe if you like the Jets side there. Aaron Rodgers actually plays really well off of rest. So I will point that out. Over his career, having additional rest, which he does have here because they're coming off a Thursday night game, he has a really good straight-up record, but they're, of course, having to cover a big number as a favorite in that one. But I do still like the Jets. Johnny, you're gay, man. Thanks for hanging out. All right, we can talk about baseball, but, man, we come down to the end of the baseball season here, man. I mean, this is the final game for every team except for the Mets and the Braves. Mets and the Braves had 2 games postponed because of the hurricane, and those are the games that matter the most in all of Major League Baseball. It's just insane that it looks like it's going to come down to a doubleheader, a makeup doubleheader, 2 makeup games that the Mets and the Braves are going to have to play tomorrow. It's just insane because we've now gotten to the point where it's still a cluster. There was a 3-way tie in the National League there for the final 2 wildcard spots, and now the Braves have won 2 games in a row against the Kansas City Chiefs, and Arizona and the Mets have both lost both games in their series so far. So now the Braves have gone from 1 game behind those 2 teams to 1 game ahead of those 2 teams. So the Braves are actually sitting at 1 game ahead of them. All 3 teams still need to win. Those are the only 3 teams that still need to win at this point. Everything else is basically decided except for maybe some seeding, positioning that doesn't really matter a whole lot at this point. So it comes down to motivation, man. You need to look at motivation here, and the teams that are going to have motivation today are those 3 teams. So we look at those 3 teams. Arizona, I don't like the Arizona side in this game, dude. Minus 165 up to minus 180 money line on Arizona. 81% of the tickets and 97% of the cash. It looks like the market is coming in kind of strongly on the Arizona side. There's no way that I could take Arizona in this one, man. I mean, this is Brandon Pfaadt pitching for Arizona. He's fatting and shitting. This guy, I mean, he is actually doing that recently. I mean, his ERA is up to 4.8 on the season, 1.25 whip, not great either. His recent performances have been horrific. In August, he had a 6.04 ERA, and in the month of September, 8.31 ERA. He somehow had this back-to-back start against Milwaukee, where in the second start, he had a really good start and put up 12 strikeouts, but all of his other starts of the month have been terrible. He's been horrible, man. Even though a 31-9 strikeout walk ratio doesn't look that bad, the 31 strikeouts is really, really high. But still, I mean, he's been putting up a lot of walks in a lot of these performances. All the starts besides the Milwaukee one have just been disgusting. And not disgusting in a good way. And up against San Diego, he also sucks. In 95 at-bats worth, even though he has a 24-3 strikeout walk ratio, San Diego has a 337 batting average and 778 OPS. So Brandon Pfaadt has bad numbers against San Diego. He has bad recent form. I would not want to play Pfaadt, even though they do have the motivation here. He looks like he's falling apart pretty much towards the end of the season. He is still a young guy. I think last year might have been his rookie season. So he's still probably not used to the rigors of going through a full season. So I think that's part of it. He's just like wearing down, man. I think if Arizona was smart, they might actually go with another option here and try to save Pfaadt for the playoffs. But of course, they might not even get into the playoffs. I think they're actually the team that's the lowest out of the 3 between them, the Braves, and the Mets right now. They are up against Martin Perez. He's not a very good pitcher either. 4.25 ERA, 1.45 whip. He has been better since being acquired by San Diego. I think the fact that he got to start playing for a contender, a team that is going to be in the playoffs, caused him to start pitching a bit better. And you look at this record. San Diego behind Perez has won all but 1 game. They're 8-1 in his start since they got him, which is kind of ridiculous since he's not that good of a pitcher. But he had a 3.41 ERA in August and 1.08 in September so far. But a 13-5 strikeout walk ratio is not very impressive. But he did walk 3 in his last start against the White Sox. So Martin Perez is actually the better form out of the two pitchers, but he's also not that great, and his stats against Arizona aren't good either. In 58 at-bats, 12.9 strikeout walk ratio, 345 average, 950 OPS. Not good. So his stats also not good. So my tendency in this one actually was to look towards maybe an over, but the market is really indicating against it. Down from 9 juice to the under to 8.5 juice to the over. 65% of the tickets on the over, 97% of the cash on the under, however. So the market looks like there's some strong indicators like pros versus Joes type of stuff where the pros look like they're actually on the under in this one. And Arizona has really been struggling to score recently. So their offense also isn't in good form. They got shut out yesterday. Oh, and by the way, for whoever it was who's asking where AJ Puke is, I found out he's in Arizona's bullpen because he pitched a third of an inning last night against San Diego, and he gave up 2 home runs. He only got one guy out, and he gave up 2 home runs and 3 earned runs. Really great performance out of Puke. Very puke-inducing there. Jameson, I already did my Sunday. I already did the NFL video last night, man. I talked about NFL at the start of this video as well, but go watch my NFL video. It's on the channel. I do it Saturday nights because it's more of a long format. Even though it winds up being kind of similar, it's a longer video still than what I do on these morning breakdowns. So this morning, the morning's always baseball, dude, because with football, you watch like the lines over the week. It's a weekly sport. Baseball's daily, so you got to cover baseball like pretty much in the morning is the best time to do it. So Arizona, yeah, there's no way that I'm going to lay a price like that on Arizona with Fott, with how bad he's been playing and with how bad Arizona's offense has been. But then again, Arizona getting shut out last night at home in a must-win situation almost. So embarrassing that they might bounce back from that. So, my lean in this one would still be to the over, but the market indicators are really keeping me off of that. What else we got on the slate here? We got Houston. I will point out that they have a guy making his major league debut in the final game of the season with Ryan Gusto, and we'll see if he pitches with Gusto. So I lean to the Houston side just because they're throwing a guy out there for his major league debut, so Cleveland will have never seen him before, but I don't know how good Gusto really is. Like, his stats in the minors aren't so impressive to me that it's like a situation where I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm going to really jump on this guy, although the market is indicating on Houston. Cleveland down from minus 195 to minus 148, but some of that probably had to do with who was slated to start this game, and Cleveland, I think, probably had somebody else slated, and now they're putting in Nick Sandlin, which I believe that means Cleveland is going with an opener approach. I think they're going with a bullpen game today. 63% of the tickets on Houston. Houston's still getting the public action because I think from the public's perspective, they see this as being like a pretty close matchup, and they have a tendency to take the underdog when it's close like that. They perceive value on the underdog, but 72% of the cash also on Houston. So it does look like some cash is coming in on Houston. I would prefer a guy in his major league debut just because he hasn't been seen before by the opposing hitters over a bullpen game that Cleveland has given you here, even though Cleveland's bullpen is really good, but I don't know if they're going to be bringing out their best relievers in the final game of the season when it doesn't matter at all. It's September call-up, so they're probably going to be bringing in some of their worst relievers if I were to guess, although you might see some of the better guys get out there just to get some work in. I don't know for sure, but Gusto, as far as what he's done in the minors, he's been kind of all over the map in the minors. He's had some good numbers in the minors and some bad numbers in the minors, and it's kind of just led to it being mediocre overall. But in AAA, his ERA is like in the 3s, which is not bad. He's got a high strikeout rate, but also a high walk rate. And I couldn't find any numbers on like how hard he throws or what pitches he throws. So it's kind of hard to gauge that. But he is a decent strikeout pitcher, and he does have too much wildness from what I can gather there. What else we got here? And then, the other games that matter, obviously, where's the, I skipped over the Mets. Yeah, so the Mets obviously are also one of the other teams in a must-win situation, and they're having to play at Milwaukee. So thanks to the schedule makers as far as the Mets are concerned there. They have to finish the season. Games that they need to win, they're playing against one of the better teams in the NL and having to stay in a haunted hotel. So that's awesome. The Mets are up from minus 118 to minus 120. I mean, Milwaukee doesn't need to win these games, and neither does San Diego at this point, but they've both still been winning these games anyway. So kind of an indictment of the Mets and Arizona's play here down the stretch. 84% of the tickets are on the Mets, though. The Mets drawing public action basically as much as possible here because the public liked the way they've been playing recently. The public they really seem to be overlooking the Milwaukee Brewers, man. It's kind of crazy. You might see the Brewers be kind of like a contrarian play once we get into the playoffs here. And the Mets, 96% of the cash in this one, though, so it looks like there is some cash coming in on them. Looking at the starting pitching matchup here, you're not going to find me on the Mets as a public road favorite here with the pressure on them. David Peterson, I know his 3.08 ERA looks good. The 1.33 whip is not good. And he hasn't been in the greatest recent form necessarily. He's got a 4.15 ERA this month. He has been alternating good and bad starts, though. So if he continues to be doing that, he'd be in line for a good one here. And a 23-4 strikeout walk ratio is not that bad either. But against Milwaukee, he struggles in 40 at-bats. He has more walks than strikeouts, 10 walks to 9 strikeouts. Milwaukee hits 325 off him with a 1,060 OPS with 2 home runs, but they're both from Rhys Hoskins. But still, that is not good, man. Peterson does not have good numbers in his career against Milwaukee. Colin Ray, on the other hand, kind of a sneaky pitcher where he's kind of a junk pitcher. He's getting up there in age, a guy that I never really looked at multiple times, really. He was never a guy that I really thought was great, but his stats this season aren't that bad. 4.17 ERA, 1.23 whip. I mean, he's a guy that you wouldn't really mind having him at the back end of your rotation, actually, necessarily. You wouldn't really mind having this guy on the back end, man, Colin Ray. I mean, he has some real clunker starts in there, and the one thing that concerns me about Ray, I don't understand why this is the case, but he has not gone more than 4 innings in any start going all the way back to August 24th. So maybe Milwaukee's just lowering his pitch count as they come down the stretch just because they want him to be ready for the playoffs. But it doesn't make sense to me when he's a veteran, even though I know he's getting a little bit older. But usually you don't see teams do that with a guy who's not only a veteran, but a guy who I don't think throws that hard. So kind of interesting to see, but he's been poor in some of those starts. So an 8.44 ERA this month is not exactly inspiring. So not great, although his numbers against the Mets are actually pretty good. In 33 at-bats, he has a 182 opponent batting average when facing the Mets, and it's home to a 441 OPS. So if you just look at the matchup, specific stats, Colin Ray has a huge advantage over David Peterson, but Ray has not been in good recent form. Neither pitcher has been in good recent form, and Ray looks like he's not going deep into games now as they're, I guess, preparing him for the playoffs. So I don't want to play on this game, obviously. And I'm actually surprised in this one. The market is looking towards the under in this one as well. 56% of the tickets, 71% of the cash, with the line just sitting at 8 on the total. With both of those pitchers not being in good recent form, I would not want to be touching an under in that one. Johnny, what's up, guys? Johnny, find some new material, bro. Let me see here. And then, of course, the Atlanta Braves are the other team we're going to talk about here. They're a huge home favorite in this one, down from minus 235 to minus 202. 67% of the tickets on them, but 82% of the cash on Kansas City. So the market indicators are strong on Kansas City here, even though Atlanta needs to win. I think Atlanta is just way too heavy a favorite here, dude. I don't think there's really much justifying Atlanta being that heavy a favorite, even though we all know Atlanta needs to win. Kansas City does not need to win. They're already in, and they probably pay even less attention when this is an interleague game. They don't really care about spoiler potential here against the Atlanta Braves. I don't think they really give a crap. Although, again, I think with this matchup here, I think this line too heavy on the Atlanta side, so I would agree with that probably there's absolutely no value on the Atlanta side in this one. The public ticket percentage is coming in on them, and the cash percentage looks like it's coming in strongly on Kansas City here. This is Alec Marsh. Alec Marsh is pitching for Kansas City. He hasn't been that great, really. 4.65 ERA, 1.27 whip on the season. Recent form, also pretty mediocre at best. 4.5 ERA, coming off a not very good start in kind of a must-win game against Detroit. He didn't get it done, even though they got into the playoffs anyway, along with that Detroit team. 26-6 strikeout walk ratio this month isn't that bad, though. Overall, he's not terrible. And against the Atlanta Braves, we really don't have a lot of a sample size here. Only 3 of their hitters have ever faced him before. 2 of them don't have a hit off of him. They're a combined 2 for 9 off of him, 222 batting average and 556 OPS. So he's done fine against the Braves hitters that he has faced, but very small sample size. That also means that a lot of Atlanta's hitters are not familiar with what Marsh throws. So Marsh might actually have a little bit of an edge there just because of the unfamiliarity there where Atlanta's hitters have never seen him before. Charlie Morton is pitching. Charlie Morton, kid, is pitching for the Braves here. Pretty decent ERA for a guy who's 40 years old on the season, 4.08 ERA. So he's still a decently effective pitcher, although 1.32 ERA is not very good. Against Kansas City in his career, he has been quite good. 83 at-bat sample size. 22-13 strikeout walk ratio is not good, but he's held him to a 193 batting average and 603 OPS. So in a large sample size, Morton has been pretty good. So this is a game where if I was going to do anything in this game, I would probably have my eye towards an under in this one, which the market is indicating on the under in all of these games. But in this one, I actually tend to agree with it more than the other ones because Marsh is pretty unfamiliar to Atlanta's hitters, and Morton actually has pretty decent stats against Kansas City. 60% of the tickets and 66% of the cash on the under. And then I also considered playing against my Boston Red Sox, but the problem I have with this is that you're getting into, this is the last game of the baseball season, man, where crazy crap can happen. I got caught trying to play that under yesterday, and Paul Skeens got pulled after 2 innings. Even though he was pitching well, it was 2 shutout innings, but they just decided to shut him down for the season. Things will happen that you don't expect, so you're taking a risk playing a lot of these games where it's a situation where it doesn't matter. So when it comes down to the final game, you only want to be playing on teams like those NL teams that I just went over who actually need to win these games. But I'm not going to be able to make a play on any of those 3. I did almost want to play on Tampa Bay, though, just because I think this is a big-time starting pitching mismatch. But the problem is you don't know, again, how much are these pitchers actually going to – how many innings are they actually going to go in this game, really? Red Sox are a little bit public with 62% of tickets. It's just because they're the Boston Red Sox, and Tampa's not that great a team. The public's just going to come in on the Red Sox, especially as a home underdog in their final game of the season at Fenway. But the pitching matchup is so bad for the Red Sox, dude, even though they do have 63% of the cash, it looks like, too. Tampa Bay is up from -110 to -113. So it's almost basically just in that pick-em price window, basically, where it's just pick the winner, essentially. And you tell me to do that, and the starting pitching matchup is Pepio against Priester. Yeah, I'm going to side with Pepio. I think you might be getting some value on that side. It's just the only question is, how motivated are these teams both going to be here, and how motivated are these starters going to be? Pepio is really good. He's probably the best starting pitcher on Tampa. I think actually unquestionably he is. 3.64 ERA, 1.14 whip. He's been okay, even though he's gotten a little bit worse as the season has progressed. This month has not been his best. 27-12 strikeout walk ratio. He's had 2 starts where he walked 4 guys, and other than that, he's been pretty good. But my one issue that I have with Pepio is that he just faced Boston 2 starts ago, and the Red Sox were pretty unfamiliar with him coming into that game, so now the Red Sox have seen him before. So if the Red Sox do actually want to show up and try, the Red Sox might have a little bit of an easier time facing him again because they just faced him. So whereas that first time he dominated them and struck out 12 and just destroyed them in Tampa Bay, 6-inning, 1-run performance, only 2 hits allowed. Red Sox were mostly unfamiliar with him, and now they've seen him at least once, so they'll be a little bit more familiar with him. But Pepio is so good that I'm not sure that that's going to matter that much, even if he does a little bit worse. This time out, I'm not sure that he's going to actually have a bad performance here. He doesn't have too many bad performances. Now, in 25 at-bats, the Red Sox are only 3 for 25 off him. Trevor Story hit a home run off of him, but other than that, a 10-1 strikeout walk ratio, 120 batting average, 434 OPS. So, Pepio, he's just good in general. He was good in that one start against the Red Sox. And the Red Sox, I didn't even know the Red Sox had picked up Quinn Priester. I don't know what they see in this guy. He was pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates earlier this season. Pirates are the only team he's played for across 14 starts and 20 appearances last year and this year. 6.46 ERA and 1.58 whip. Only 67 strikeouts and 40 walks in 94 2/3 innings in his career. I mean, what does anybody see in this guy? His strikeout rate is extremely low. His walk rate is ridiculously high. His ERA is terrible. His whip is terrible. Does this guy have anything going for him? Because I don't see it at all. I understand he's only 24 and maybe he'll get better, but with that low of a strikeout rate, like usually when you think guys are going to start like adapting and turn it on, usually it's a guy who at least can strike guys out and throw hard, but I don't think that's the case with Priester. I don't like this at all, man. I don't know why the Red Sox have Priester at all. I'm sorry. And against Tampa, we have almost no sample size. Only Christopher Morel or Morrill. Is he moral or immoral or amoral? I don't know. Christopher Morel is 0 for 2 with a walk off of him and no strikeouts. There's nothing that you can really gain from looking at that. The rest of Tampa's hitters have never seen him before, but Pepio is the way, way better pitcher than Priester. If you just look at their stats, I mean, I think it's totally obvious, and yet the public is still coming in on the Red Sox here for some insane reason. I'm not going to be on any of those, though. That's the breakdown that I got for you for today for baseball, and I talked about football as well, of course. What's up, guys? JC, thanks for hanging out. Royal Deluxe. I will play some ukulele, man, probably. I don't know. It depends on how my voice is doing. I was going to maybe do one last night, do some cover, but it was not working out for my voice last night. You can hear it in my voice right now. I got to shut up and get out of here and rest my voice maybe. Top can't swim. Yeah, I mean, well, he's a brown guy. Well, that means he can swim, right? He's not black. He's brown, so he can swim. He does wear a bikini like that too, by the way. It's kind of hot, to be honest. Thanks for hanging out, guys. So go watch my NFL video that I did last night. I broke down some of the games. I got the 2 plays for you, which are my only 2 plays today. I'm not making a play in baseball today. With baseball, the final game of the season, man, it's very risky to get involved in it. NFL, I got Chicago Bears -3, which is my favorite play, and Arizona -3.5, where the market is going against it now, but I think it's a letdown spot for both the LA Rams and for the Washington football team there, the Redskins. So those are my 2 actual plays. I'm Tower Gang Toad, of course. Go follow me on Twitter. Send me a DM, whatever, if you want me to talk about other games. I got to throw the NFL video up in the Telegram. If you want access to that Telegram, the Tower Gang Telegram, you hang out with us in the Telegram. Tower Gang, patreon.com/Tower Gang. Go sign up for the Tower Gang Patreon, and you get all bonus content, man. Live post-show, live pre-show. I always say post-show first just because it's better than the pre-show usually, but the pre-show has its moments as well. And you get access to that Patreon, or access to that Patreon. Of course you get access to the Patreon, because that's what you're signing up for. You get access to that Telegram that we're all in as well. Go do it. Go hang out with us. Get some bonus content. Thanks, guys. Thanks for showing up. That's going to do it for me today, man. Let's have a good NFL Sunday at the very least. We got to turn it around because I had a 2-3 Saturday, which is not great. And that Auburn game was absolutely a bad beat. That should have cashed. That was the difference between a winning day and a losing day, too. It's just extremely frustrating, especially when I'd just gotten back into the black on the year. One day and you're back slightly into the red again. I think I am. Come on, man. Let's get back into the black again. Let's go back to black, baby. I go back to black. Thanks, guys. Peace out.